So, talking about both Marvel and DC, despite being fans of both of them growing up, I've always leaned more towards DC. I've just generally preferred the characters on DC or in DC rather than the ones in Marvel. Not saying that Marvel is bad, I've always generally just preferred DC growing up. But however, talking about the film universes that we have today, it is a completely different story. There is no denying that the MCU has done an awful lot better financially at the box office than what DC has. And a lot of people say as well that the films are a lot better from the MCU than the ones that DC are putting out as well, and to some extent I can agree with them. I personally cannot stand the Justice League or the Suicide Squad film. But however, talking about the DCEU, their upcoming film, their latest film that they are set to be bringing out next year is called Birds of Prey. Now, I know very little about it. I've never read any of the Birds of Prey comics, or if there was any, or anything like that, and I'm not really familiar with a lot of the characters that are going to be in this upcoming film as well. What we know so far of this upcoming Birds of Prey film is it's going to be a kind of standalone Harley Quinn film. She breaks off from the Joker and kind of goes on and does her own thing. But from what we've seen of posters and other information, you know, she's got a lot of sidekicks and, you know, people working alongside her as well. You know, other characters from the DC comics that I know nothing about. But by the looks of it, from what we know, it's going to be like a kind of female Suicide Squad, or at least that's what it looks like to me, at face value. There was recently a promotional poster that was put out as well, and I will put that up for you right now. Prepare to get your sick bags ready. So here it is right here, and if you ask me, it's honestly a very poor poster, or at least I don't like it. In many ways, to me, it kind of resembles like a fan poster or a very amateur poster that, you know, honestly, if you have Photoshop or have an idea of how Photoshop works, you could easily make a similar kind of poster to this. Honestly, this is a very poor poster, at least in my opinion, and I'm sure you agree with me. According to the article, the poster features Harley Quinn in her new look for the film following 2016's Suicide Squad. Fluttering around her head are the rest of the main cast, including Huntress, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Black Canary, Cassandra Cain, Renee Montoya, and the villains Black Mask and Victor Zsasz? I don't know how to pronounce his name. I've never heard of that character. Now, personally, I'm not really familiar with most of these characters. The only ones that I know are Harley Quinn herself, and I only know a tiny bit about the character Black Mask, who's played by Ewan McGregor. Despite the Suicide Squad connection via Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, screenwriter Christina Hodson says it's a standalone film rather than a follow-up to the 2016 anti-hero team-up. I will get into my thoughts on this overall film in a bit, but I'll scroll further down, read the rest of the article. It's a character that we've met before, but it's really its own story, and that's kind of how I approached it. I just tried to take myself off leash. I fell in love with this character and then all of these other characters, and I just created a brand new story that felt like its own thing, and that doesn't have to feel like it follows one or the other. James Gunn's The Suicide Squad will also serve as a reboot to the franchise following poor critical reception in 2016. We pretend that film never happened. According to Screen Rant, the general synopsis of Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn is that Harley will quite literally emancipate herself from the Joker, join forces with other heroes like Huntress and Black Canary, and fight Black Mask and Zsasz in order to protect a young Cassandra Cain. That's all we know of it so far. There's not really that much information about it. Birds of Prey is set to come out on February the 7th, 2020. Now, we're not really sure where it's going to go or what they're going to do, but the groundwork, you could say, is there for another woke fest of a film. We're not sure if it's going to go woke yet. There's not really a proper trailer out yet. There's only been a couple of sneak peeks and like the promotional poster I've just showed you. There really isn't enough information on the film to have a say on it, but the groundwork is there for another SJW fest that just pushes feminist politics. Because all of the protagonists, or a majority of the protagonists in the film, are female, and the two villains are going to be men, the groundwork is right there, and it's very possible that they could go down that kind of road with this film. I'd rather they didn't, but it looks like they could do that. Now, I believe that there is another issue with this film altogether that is nothing to do with the fact that the film might be bad or the writing might be poor or anything like that. I'm talking about it in the grand scheme of things with the entire DC universe. When we have a look at this Birds of Prey film, they're introducing another bunch of characters, new heroes or villains or whatever. I believe that Warner Brothers and DC, they're not focusing on the right characters. Instead of bringing in new characters like these ones here in Birds of Prey, what they should be doing is properly developing their main superheroes like Superman, Batman, The Flash and what have you. For example, we've needed a Man of Steel sequel for how long now? We should have got Man of Steel 2 probably 4 years ago. We still haven't even got a Batman standalone film yet in the DCEU, and we should have got that about 3 or 4 years ago as well. I'm personally under the belief that Warner Brothers have no idea where to take the DCEU at this point, so they're just bringing in all of these new characters that nobody's ever even heard of, unless you're a hardcore DC fan that's read the comics. Honestly, at this point, I believe that they don't even know where to take the DCEU. And it's a shame really, because I want the DC universe to do well, I want them to make good films, I want them to properly develop their characters, but instead it doesn't seem like they're doing that, and they honestly have no idea what they're doing. But overall, people, be sure to let us know what you think about this upcoming film down below. What are your thoughts on the DCEU, and what are your thoughts on this upcoming Birds of Prey film? Be sure to let us know what you think about this upcoming film down below, alright? Alright, gentlemen, this has been Lord Flashheart. Be sure to rate, comment, favourite, share and subscribe, and I will see you again. Cheerio!